Hey, whoop. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Oh, thank you, Dark Rose. Enjoy your lurk from a safe distance. I am going to be doing something a little bit different today. Excuse the mess. It's pretty horrible. So, sorry about that. But I am going to be doing a little bit of reading. I got Edgar Allan Poe, the greatest works of Edgar Allan Poe. And I've also got the complete Carnacki, the Ghost Finder. These are some cool short stories. These are both written, over 100 years ago now, which is why I'm able to read them on stream, because they are they are in the public domain. So, I've been spending a lot of time trying to figure out which to read first. So, I think to test it out, I think we're going to go with some Edgar Allan Poe. And, let's see. Sorry, just trying to make sure everything is good. I'm not sure about how my levels are. If anybody's in the chat, if you could give me some feedback. Also, my new layout here, I have it seasonal. I have two different ones. I have this one and this one, which they're pretty much the same, just one has a couple more added things to it. So, if you like one better than the other, let me know. And I also have some copyright-free music to put on while I'm reading. That I'm definitely going to need help with getting the level, so if I'm too loud or the music's too loud, just let me know. So I think with Edgar Allan Poe, we're going to read one of my favorite Edgar Allan Poe stories called The Cask of Amontillado. I think is going to be the first one, but like before we read, look how beautiful this book is. It's got like gold trimmed pages. It's a hardback. It's got the little ribbon in it so you can hold your place, which I thought was pretty awesome. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with my throat. Where's a mint? Mint. So, let's see here. If I can get the music queued up properly, we will get going. Okay, why isn't it working? Oh, it is working, it's just real low. So how does that sound? Anybody who's in chat? If you could let me know, that would be great. Man, what a close-up of my head. Yay! Hello, kitties. How are you? So, yeah, I got my book. And we will start reading. I think I'm going to go with Cask of Amontillado first. Oh, parking. Oh yeah, don't twitch and drive. Not a good combination. God, my hair is looking friggin' crazy. Stupid, nice, high definition camera. That's one of my favorites too. I was torn. I didn't want to go cliche and do the Raven, because I feel like that's just done a lot. Which I'm not even sure what that one's actually called. Because if it's called The Raven... Telltale Heart. Okay. Yep, that's in here. There's a lot in here. Fall of the House of Usher, Mask of the Red Death, which is one of my other favorite ones, Telltale Heart, Cask of Amontillado, Pit and the Pendulum. There's a lot of good ones in this book. So, we're going to start with the Cask of Amontillado. I wonder how well this is going to show up on screen. Stockhawk! You only twitch and drive. What's going on, Stock? Boop. Cask of Amontillado is what we're reading first. Wow, this was published quite some time ago. The Tale of Mystery was first published in the November 1846 issue of Godey's Ladies' Book. Twitched past a cop? Oh no. So what I'll do is I'll read a couple of pages and then I'll take a short break and catch up on chat and stuff. The thousand... Oh, before I get started, actually, can you hear me over the music? Or do I need to turn the music down? Is it okay? Is it perfect? You gotta let me know, so that I know and can adjust it accordingly. Music is good. Alright. Cool. I even made my background a little bit like translucent so you can kind of see through it a little. Give myself a ghostly aesthetic. Alright, here we go. The 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had borne as best I could, but when he ventured upon insult, I vowed revenge. You, who so well know the nature of my soul, will not suppose, however, that I gave utterance to a threat. At length I would be avenged. This was a point definitively settled. But the very definitiveness with which it was resolved precluded the idea of risk. I must not only punish, but punish with impunity. A wrong is unredressed when retribution overtakes its redresser. It is equally unredressed when the avenger fails to make himself felt as such to him who has done the wrong. It must be understood that neither by word nor deed had I given Fortunato cause to doubt my goodwill. I continued, as was my wont, to smile in his face, and he did not perceive my smile now, as was at the thought of his immolation. He had a weak point, this Fortunato. Although in other regards he was a man to be respected and even feared, he prided himself on connoisseurship in wine. Few Italians have the true virtuoso spirit. For the most part, their enthusiasm is adopted to suit the time and opportunity. To practice imposture upon the British and Australian millionaires. In painting and gemmary, Fortunato, like his countrymen, was a quack, but in the matter of old wines he was sincere. In this respect, I did not differ from him materially. I was skillful in the Italian vintages myself, and bought largely whenever I could. It was about dusk one evening, during the supreme madness of the carnival season, that I encountered my friend. He accosted me with excessive warmth, for he had been drinking much. The man wore motley. He had on a tight-fitting, party-striped dress, and his head was surmounted by a conical cap and bells. I was so pleased to see him that I thought I should never have done wringing his hand. I said to him, "My dear Fortunato, you are luckily met. How remarkably well you are looking today. But at the reserve of a pipe what passes for Amontillado. And I have my doubts." "How?" he said. "Amontillado? A pipe? Impossible. And in the middle of the carnival?" "I have my doubts," I replied. "And I was silly enough to pay the full Amontillado price without consulting you in the matter. You were not to be found, and I was fearful of losing a bargain. Amontillado. I have my doubts. Amontillado. And I must satisfy them. Amontillado. As you are enraged, I am on my way to Lushy. Lushy? If anyone has a critical turn, it is he." Oh, the music got real loud. Hold on, let me turn down my headset. There we go. Couldn't even hear myself think. "As you are enraged, I am on my way to Lushy. If anyone has a critical turn, it is he. He will tell me, Lushy cannot tell Amontillado from Sherry. And yet, some fools will have it that his taste is a match for your own. Come, let us go. Whither? To your vaults." "My friend, no. I will not impose your good nature. I perceive you to have an engagement. Lushy, I have no engagement. Come." "My friend, no. It is not the engagement, but the severe cold with which I perceive you are afflicted. The vaults are insufferably damp. They are encrusted with nitre. Niter? Niter? Gonna go with Niter. Let us go, nonetheless. The cold is merely nothing, Amontillado. You have been imposed upon. As for Lushy, he cannot distinguish sherry from Amontillado. Thus speaking, Fortunato possessed himself to my arm, putting on a mask of silk black and drawing a roquelier close about my person. I suffered him to hurry me to my plazeo. There's a lot of words in here that I am super not familiar with, or that I just haven't heard in a long time. There were no attendants at home. They had absconded to make merry in honor of the time. I had told them I should not return until morning, and had given them explicit orders not to stir from the house. These orders were sufficient, I well knew, to ensure their immediate disappearance, one and all, as soon as my back was turned. I took from their sconces 2 flambeaux, and giving one to Fortunato, bowed him through several suites of rooms to the archway that led to the vaults. I passed down a long and winding staircase, requesting him to be cautious as he followed. We came at length to the foot of the descent, and stood together on the damp ground of the catacombs in the Montresors. The gait of my friend was unsteady, and the bells upon his cap jingled as he strode. The pipe, he said. It is further on, I said. But observe the white webwork which gleams from the cavern walls. He turned toward me, and looked into my eyes with 2 filmy orbs that distilled the rheum of intoxication. Niter? He asked at length. Niter. How long have you had that cough? My poor friend found it impossible to reply for many minutes. It is nothing, he said at last. Come, I said, with decision. We will go back. Your health is precious. You are rich, respected, admired, beloved. You are happy, as I was once. You are a man to be missed. For me, it is no matter. We will go back. You will be ill, and I cannot be responsible. Besides, there is Lushy. Enough, he said. The cough is merely nothing. It will not kill me. I shall not die of cough. True, true, I replied. And indeed, I had no intention of alarming you unnecessarily. But you should use all proper caution. A draught in the Medoc will defend us from the damps. Here I knocked off the neck of a bottle, which I drew from a long row of its fellows that lay upon the mould. Drink, I said, presenting the wine to him. He raised it to his lips with a leer. He paused, nodding to me, familiarly, while you know the word, while his bells jingled. I drink, he said, to the buried repose around us. And I drink to your long life. He took my arm again, and we proceeded. These vaults, he said, are extensive. The Montresors, I replied, were a great and numerous family. I forget your arms. A huge human foot door in a field azure. The foot crushes a serpent rampant whose fangs are embedded in the heel. And the motto? Nemo me impune lacet. Good, he said. The wine sparkled in his eyes, and the bells jingled. My own fancy grew warm with the Medoc. We passed through the walls of piled bones and casks and puncheons, intermingling into the inmost of the catacombs. I paused again, and this time I made bold to seize Fortunato by the arm above his elbow. The nitre, I said. See, it increases. It hangs like mold upon the vaults. We are below the river's bed. The drops of moisture trickle among the bones. Come, we will go back ere it is too late. Your cough. It is nothing, he said. Let us go on. But first, another draught of the Medoc? I broke and reached for a flagon of d'agave. He emptied it in a breath. His eyes flashed with a fierce light, and he laughed, threw the bottle upward with gesticulation I did not understand. I looked at him in surprise. He repeated the movement in one He repeated the movement, a grotesque one. Do you not comprehend? He said. Not I replied. Then you are not of the Brotherhood. How? You are not one of the Masons. Yes, I said. Yes. You? Impossible. A Mason? A Mason, I replied. A sign, he said, a sign. It is this. Thank you, kiddies. Thank you for the gifted sub. It is this, I answered, producing a breath from the folds of my roquelier, a trowel. You jest, he exclaimed, recoiling a few paces. But let us proceed to the Amontillado. Be it so, I said, replacing the tool beneath the cloak, and again offering him my arm. He leaned upon it heavily. We continued our route in search of the Amontillado. We passed through a range of low arches, descended, passed on, and descending again. Arrived at a deep crypt in which the foulness of the air caused our flambeau rather to glow than flame. At the most remote end of the crypt, there appeared another less spacious. Its walls were lined with human remains, piled to the vault overhead, in the fashion of the great catacombs of Paris. 3 sides of the interior crypt were still ornamented in this manner. From the 4th of the bones had to be thrown down and lay promiscuously upon the earth, forming at one point a mound of some size. Within the walls, thus exposed a displacing of the bones, we perceived a still interior recess. In depth about 4 feet, in width 3, in height 6 or 7. It seemed to be constructed for no especial use in itself, but formed merely the interval between 2 of the colossal supports of the roof of the catacombs, and was backed by one of their circumscribing walls of solid granite. It is in the vein that Fortunato, uplifting his dull torch, endeavored to pry into the depths of the recess. In termination, the feeble light did not enable us to see. Proceed, I said. Herein is the Amontillado. As for Leshy, he is an ignoramus, interrupted my friend, as he stepped unsteadily forward. I followed immediately at his heels. In an instant, he had reached for the extremity of the niche, and finding his progress arrested by the rock, stood stupidly bewildered. A moment more, and I had fettered him to the granite. In its surface were 2 iron staples, distant from each other about 2 feet horizontally. From one of these depended a short chain, and from the other a padlock. Throwing the links around his waist, it was but the work of a few seconds to secure it. He was much too astounded to resist. Withdrawing the key, I stepped back from the recess. Take a quick break there. I think we're... Oh my god, I could have just finished the story. You know what? I'm just going to go for it. Pass your hand, I said over the wall. You cannot help feeling the niter. It is indeed very damp. Once more, let me implore you to return. No? That is a very good soundbite for this. Once more, let me implore you to return. No? Then I must positively leave you. But I must first render you all the little attentions in my power. The Amontillado, ejaculated my friend, not yet recovered from his astonishment. True, I replied, the Amontillado. As I said these words, I buried myself among the pile of bones of which I have spoken before. Throwing them aside, I soon uncovered a quantity of building stone and mortar. With all these materials, and the aid of my trowel, I began vigorously to wall up the entrance of the niche. I had scarcely laid the first tier of my masonry when I discovered the intoxication of Fortunato had in a great measure worn off. The earliest indication I had was from the low moaning cry from the depths of the recess. It was not a cry of a drunken man. There was a long, obstinate silence. I laid the second tier, and the third, and the fourth, and then I heard blah 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 blah. And then I heard the furious vibrations of the chains. The noise lasted for several minutes, during which that I might hearken to it with more satisfaction. I ceased my labors and sat down upon the bones. When at last the clanking subsided, I resumed the trowel and finished without interruption the fifth, the sixth, and seventh tier. The wall was now nearly up to the level of my breast. I paused again, holding the flambeau over the masonwork, threw a few feeble rays upon the figure within. A succession of loud and shrill screams, bursting suddenly from the throat of the chained form, seemed to bursting suddenly from the throat of the chained form seemed to thrust violently back. For a brief moment I hesitated. I trembled. Unsheathing my rapier, I began to grope with it about the recess. But the thought of an instant reassured me. I placed my hand upon the solid fabric of the catacombs and felt satisfied. I reapproached the wall. I replied to the yells of him who clamored. I re-echoed. I aided. I surpassed them in volume and in strength. I did this, and the clamor grew still. It was now midnight, and my task was drawing to a close. I had completed the 8th, 9th, and 10th tier. I had finished a portion of the last and the 11th. There remained but a single stone to be fitted and plastered in. I struggled with its weight. I placed it partially in its destined position. By now there came out from the niche a low laugh that erected the hairs upon my head. It was succeeded by a sad voice, which I had difficulty in recognizing as that of the noble Fortunato. The voice said, "A good joke indeed, an excellent jest. We will have many a rich laugh about this at the Palazzo. He, over wine. The Amontillado," I said. Yes, the Amontillado. But is it not getting late? Will they not be waiting for us at the Palazzo? The Lady Fortunato and the rest? Let us be gone. Yes, let us be gone. For the love of God, monstresser. Yes, I said, for the love of God. But to these words I hearkened a vain in reply. I grew impatient. I cried aloud, "Fortunato!" No answer. I called again, "Fortunato!" No answer still. I thrust a torch through the remaining aperture and let it fall within. There came a fourth, in return only a jingling of bells. My heart grew sick. It was the dampness of the catacombs that made it so. I hastened to the end of my labor. I forced the last stone in its position, and I plastered it up. Against the new masonry, I re-erected the old rampart of bones. For the half of a century, no mortal had disturbed them. In pace resequat. I like that story. It is very dark. And we never really learn what Fortunato did to piss off Monstresser. I think that's his name. But it must have been something serious. Because he freaking walled him in a wall. He bricked him in there alive. That is pretty damn hardcore. He knows what he fucking did. Yay, damn right. He knew. He fucking knew. I'm torn on reading another one. But I'm not sure if we should read another Edgar Allan Poe or switch it up to Karnaki or just call that the stream. I kind of do like the idea of just one story a stream. So I'm thinking, yeah, and play Fortnite. But I think I'm going to call the stream here and let the Cask of Amontillado sit with you. So, yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Thanks for coming out, everybody. I hope you enjoyed Storytime Part 1. I think I'm going to do it again throughout the month. I'm going to try to schedule them so it's more regular, and if you're interested, you'll know when I'm doing it. But yeah, thanks for coming out and hanging out, and hopefully